are Knapp and Bhatia way better than Kevin Tway? Yeah, probably. But maybe not this week.
And Kevin Tway's hot right now.
Yeah, hot.
Ready
So
to
hot.
go?
He's the Hansel of the PGA Tour.
Mayo experience.
Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by Underdog Fantasy. Use code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy right now. Get yourself that deposit match, all right? And it might get you into some giveaways for PGA Championship Week by using code Mayo. As of May 10th, there's going to be a $250 deposit bonus if you deposit enough. So you can get your deposit match, or you can deposit more and get your deposit bonus as well. And using code Mayo will throw you into the draw for some giveaways. It's going to be around $1,000 worth of giveaways. I think there's going to be 2 Fantasy National yearly memberships on the line, $500 cash, maybe some Underdog bucks to go along with it. So a ton of stuff coming up. We got a full slate of shows and content coming for you for Valhalla, but we're here to talk about the Wells Fargo Championship today, the weather, the final bets, the DraftKings picks, and we're going to do our Underdog Draft as well. Oh, geez, I don't even think I'm in the right one here. I entered the draft. Are you in this one?
Mine says 5 people waiting for.
You says, so I'm in one already, so now I need to go 2. It's 3 max entry, no rig, so I'll be doing 2 at the same time here with you. Now I need to kind of figure out what to do in terms of doing these drafts, and maybe just put myself on auto for this one and try to re-up on the other one again. But what was your initial thoughts on this slate? Because I have one hot take for DraftKings this week that I think I'm going to go with.
All right, I don't have major initial thoughts. I was teasing before the show, though, with no Scotty, now no Oberg. Just has to be Wyndham Clark, right? That opens the door for Wyndham Clark.
That was the whole thing, that I think I'm going to play 0% Wyndham Clark this week.
There you go.
Usually with Wyndham Clark, it's that everyone is out on him, right? We see it in the betting numbers. He gets completely disrespected, and then people like me are like, oh, I should probably just bet Wyndham Clark because he's a really good number. Then he finishes second to Scotty, and you lose anyway. But it's worked out really well in terms of DraftKings. Even at the Heritage, he was able to rally back and end up with that top 3. I mean, he helped me win a GPP at Pebble Beach earlier this year when he won, but no one wanted a piece of him. He was like 3% owned or something crazy like that in the tournament that I played him in. And now this week, there's a chance that he ends up being the highest owned guy, at least amongst the very top end guys. If you get a split between Rory and Xander, it just makes so much more sense to drop down to him with devoid of some of these other options, especially with Oberg being out. That I don't know if you want to play Wyndham Clark as the guy that everyone's on.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that. So this is the thing that sucked. Monday, I said this when Oberg was still in the field. This is what really tilts me now, is that I said, people say, oh, it's going to be Wyndham gets skipped over, everyone just plays Oberg or goes up to the top. I said, no, I think you got to look and see that the signature event killer, Wyndham Clark with no Scotty, and he's a full 1,000 or 1,300 less than the 2 guys above him. Yes, Oberg would have got some ownership, obviously, as everybody knows now who's watching. If they don't, he WD'd, so it's down to 69 in the field, but Clark was, I think, already going to get ownership, and now it's certain he's going to get ownership. So I like your take there, Pat, and I think you can get around it. And I wonder, with that said, if you think like Xander will get squeezed a little bit because it's just $300 to go up to Rory at that point, or do you think people are comfortable with Xander still? They usually like Xander.
I think that Xander ends up higher than Rory.
Okay. That's how I had it a little bit right now, but then I just wondered if Rory coming off the big win.
It's funny that Rory... Normally when you see a top-end player coming off of a win, it's like, oh, well, he's in great form. He's going to end up like rolling through with all of this. And maybe that's true. But it does feel like because it was the Zurich, people give it 0 credit. Like, of course it's a team event. No one cares.
Yeah, they make fun of him for it instead. Like,
yeah.
That does add up. But Rory at this course, the week before, the PGA Championship, all these other things, I think there's still going to be some Rory love there. Just we've seen it plenty of times, too, in these no-cut events where, there's lots of guys in the 6K range that people feel comfortable with, so you can get up to these builds. It'll be interesting to see when we get to it later what those look like. But I think for now, Rory and Xander are pretty close in there, but Wyndham with a bunch.
If you had to choose between those 3, who do you think you would play? Because I think there's a case that you can make. I mean, do you need to have one of those guys?
No, you can start balanced. I'm going to like those when we get to those later, but I would actually still play Rory.
You would play Rory over everyone?
Yeah, you know what's going to happen this week. Rory's going to backdoor a T3, get everyone excited for next week at the PGA Championship, and then fail everybody there. So you have to play DFS a long time to see it that way, Pat, but that's what I'm thinking up top right now. But interested in both Rory and Xander. I was with you on your take of Wyndham, and then I actually dropped down to that 9K range when we get there of guys I can't lay them below.
Okay, well, I just put up the tweet. There's for the Underdog Draft that we're going to be doing. Just a few other things. On Thursday, it looks horrible, weather-wise, by the way.
Yeah, it looks like the rain moved out from what we were going to see. I don't know if it's coming a little bit sooner on Wednesday evening now, but the winds definitely on Thursday are all over the place and gusts as high as 40 almost in some stages of the day, 35-ish. So
it doesn't even
great.
really look like there's a break at all on Thursday. Like the very, very first people on the course at 9 a.m., but because it's a condensed field, it's not like they're sending them out at 6 a.m.
Yeah, and only a 2-hour split, so it's not going to be much there. Maybe can pick up a showdown edge in round 2 or something where it's like if you want to get after it, sure, but for the first round and everything else that's going with it, doesn't seem to be too much as of right now.
Yeah, waiting for on Friday, it does seem like the morning is slightly better, although the gusts are fairly consistent throughout the course of the day, but there might be rain Friday afternoon. That's what it's scheduled for right now, so that might either get pushed. I mean, if they were smart, they would start the rounds earlier to make sure that they ensure that they get the entire round in. It's not like it's going to be, I guess if thunderstorms show up, then they can't be on the course. But I would guess that they probably do play through this. So now you got rain, but then you also have 17 mile per hour consistent winds with gusts up to 30 for the afternoon around like 3, 4, 5 p.m. to hit that AM, PM side stack. But like you mentioned, there's not that big of a split between everyone.
Yeah, I guess that's what I would say. If people want to do sort of those builds you've talked about in the past, more of a pocket build than it is an actual stack or wave stack or anything like that, because they'd want to have the people going out first thing Friday morning. But like you said, what if the rains pick up or thunder warnings, things like that, and they do decide to go? Usually it's Friday if and when the PGA Tour is quote unquote smart, to your statement there, where they would do it because they don't care as much about the TV stuff, versus on Sunday, we've seen them just risk it because they want to make sure that everything hits for those commercials and TV and advertising and all of that. So I guess the pocket builds could be a thing, but not something that I think we're going to look at here today.
Like, for example, just to take a look at like who the earliest out are versus the latest out, the first group out, because they're playing in threes, is Malnati, Pavon, and Gary Woodland on Thursday at 11 a.m. local at Quail Hollow. And then the latest group that goes out is Grayson Murray, Justin Rose, and Webb Simpson at 12:50. So it's like a legitimate 2-hour gap. So you're not really going to beat anything unless there's just pristine conditions. Well, they can play 7 holes. I think that's probably even a bit much to try to really dig into to say, oh yeah, I'm going to isolate this way. Like you said, for showdown, maybe, and maybe Friday, it's a bit more pronounced that you would want the guys that are out very first thing just to see if you can get a glimpse of anything. But that round might get pushed into Saturday and screw you over anyway.
Yeah, and it's also, I think, a little bit off where like a Noren, Zalatoris, Scott, they start like midday on the first day, and then the first one's out the next morning is what I'm seeing. So it's like that's another angle of approach to look at where you kind of have to build what you call pocket builds, where you do it that way. That's the only way I could see it happening.
Honestly, I don't even think I'm going to do that this week.
Yeah, it's such a limited field. I don't think you have to.
Yeah.
So,
I'm sick of these fields.
yes.
These 70-person fields. And I was trying to wrap my mind around why Live has been inherently unsuccessful so far. I guess there's like the backlash that they broke up the tour. People don't like that. Saudi involvement. People don't like that. The team format, it's a newer format, 54 holes. That's not what we think about for golf. They don't like that. But the PGA somehow put themselves into a trap that Live found themselves into as well. I don't want to see the same guys compete against the same guys every week. There's something inherently fun about the majors when they can all get together, right? But before, when Wells Fargo wasn't necessarily a signature event, it was just one of the events that a lot of the top-end guys played because it was one of the more meaningful tournaments on tour that you would get, 65% of the best players in the field. Now, this is when the Live guys were still there, granted. Mm-hmm. And then the next week or 2 weeks later, you would see them all play against each other. So it was like a nice prep week. Like, hey, this is a very strong field. It's a prestigious course. It's a prestigious tournament. But we don't have everyone here, so let's get a glimpse of what might happen at the majors, and then we get 100% of all the good players playing. But now we just get 98% of the same guys playing all the time.
It's more of the structure, though, I think. People don't like the no-cut setup of it. I thought I had the number 1 pick.
You got the number 2 pick, pal.
And then all of a sudden it pushed me number 2. I thought I had the number 1, but it was actually just me sitting up there. But it's better. It's improving. 3rd last week, up to 2nd. I will say, though, just to your points and everything that you mentioned there, we have a few seconds before this starts. But I think it's I actually am against it, I think, a little bit. I think that people want, that's the whole point. We want all the best players playing against each other.
No, we don't. We don't want that.
They do. It's very clear. What people don't want is these shitty events where, like last week, Ben Coles down the stretch, Taylor Pendrith wins on a Ben Coles miss.
Loved it.
All that you do. Nobody does. And the ratings show it, and everyone complaining about it shows it. It's not true. They just, unfortunately, it's the product of what we have. They cannot say to the 100 to 150th guy in rankings, there's no chance for you to move up. There's no tournaments for you to play. It's only going to be the top. How else would they get to the top 100? So it's just always going to be that way. They're going to have to play events like that. And I think for me, it's just a fatigue of it all, right? Like those events, you love them. People say they're great. The fans that we talk to of golf and golf Twitter, but
it's not like those events were popular anyway.
That's fine. But I'm saying they're essentially useless events. They're not useless to the golfers. We're going to gamble and bet on it. That's fine. I'm saying I can understand why there's sponsors backing out and situational stuff like that from the business side, and why there's fan fatigue of like, oh, it's another shitty event. Like, who gives a shit? Like, it's even half the ratings are guys like my dad turning the TV on and golf just happens to be on. Is he really dialed into it? No, he doesn't know half these guys are. So he doesn't care. But it's on, so it counts as a rating.
No, I understand that part of it. What I'm saying is that I think that these signature events are on the surface a good idea, but I think there are too many of them. And then you see the same guys play against the same guys all the time, which we're seeing now, and it takes away the luster of it. And now these won't rate as highly unless Spieth somehow gets into the final group. Like, Spieth being bad is a part of this ratings decline, by the way.
I think that's a bigger golf issue. Yeah, to your point there that you just said, it's like that is what it requires, essentially. Like, it literally requires a big name to be in it, and everyone keeps saying, oh, there's all this talent to replace everything else, which is a whole nother topic. But the point is that these guys winning, like Nick Dunlap winning, incredible story. Amateur getting a win at the start of the season, what that means for his career. He's so young. We're going to see all this stuff, all these factors. But like, it doesn't really change the game. Like, no one knows. Still, so many people have no clue who he is or care. It's a win. It's a win. Hard to win on the PGA Tour, but it's just not going to add up to be anything special. So
maybe not, but I think that we have always overrated how much some of the, like, was Victor winning at Memorial last year really that big of a deal for putting Victor Hovland on the map? Or was it the fact that he was in, the final pairings or the final three pairings of three of the majors? Like, the majors are still the only thing that actually rate well. Like, even if Valspar ratings are down 25%. Well, it's not like they were high to begin with.
I don't know how they fix it. That's my take. Like,
you don't fix it. I mean, it's just the changing world of sports on television.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that if the whole goal of these things is to, we're going to get all the best players. This is basically like a major with the type of field that we have, but you run them 8 times a year. Like, part of the luster of the majors is that they're 4 times a year. Like, you have to wait. There's anticipation for them. There's no anticipation for signature events, and that's the same thing that happens with LIV. Like, these LIV fields are really good, but it's the same guys every week.
So go back to this, because you're always the best at this stuff, the WGC issue. Remember, because everyone always says, oh, they tried this before and all that. Like, what was your big takeaway on those when, people talked about those failing? Sorry, I know you got 2 picks coming up here.
I'm making the picks. Go ahead.
But, the WGC, what was your takeaway on those? Because everyone hated those too.
I mean, I didn't like them.
And what was the reasoning?
It felt like a manufactured event just to give these guys free money. And that's all these things feel like.
So what do we need to do with these things? Because I'll still stand by on my end.
100 players with a cut.
Need 120, I think. Like, you still need
100. 100's fine if you cut it down to 50. Half the people get cut.
Yeah.
And you don't get paid just for showing up.
I like that. 50 or of 100 or 60 of 120. If you need to squeeze more guys in, I'm fine with it. I still do want the same good dude showing up. I do want them switching it to certain different events or spots that we talked about earlier in the season where it's like they are swapping it some, but I guess that's the second part of it. It does mess with some of the stuff around the cameras and things like that. Like, we always talk about like seeing every shot and all these things with Shot Tracker, all these different angles. Could it be better? I saw the other day, LIV is looking at buying golf courses. Why?
Because you can set it up.
Set it up. And that's what we talk about all the time. Why is Augusta National Golf Club better? Why is when they get to the players at Sawgrass better? Exactly. So I guess that would be another take on it too, but I guess for sure it's the 100 to 50 or the 120 to 60, but I do still want to see those guys.
I want to see them actually have to play for something on Friday. And I guess they only care about Sunday ratings or the overall interest, but part of it is like, you're not just going to, it's the same problem that WCW had when the WWF Attitude era kicked off, and they just tried to spike ratings every single week by doing the craziest things possible. And what it did, it drove them out of business because there was no consistency to what was going on. Like, this isn't a rebuild that takes 3 weeks or a year. Like, it's going to take like 2 years of solid infrastructure of building up both new players, real storylines, why this matters. And it seems like, oh, here's the Aeon 10 and the Aeon 5. We'll introduce that this year. Well, that didn't work, so let's try something else. Like,
those are all trash.
I like that. I mean, that's a good idea for the setup that they have. There are ways that you can play yourself into the signature event. You should be allowed to do that.
Then they need a better content team.
Agreed.
They need to move you in sooner because this is insane. Like you said, there's no one even knows what that stuff means. I still right now couldn't tell you exactly how it works, and I'm just in tune to it probably more than 99.9% out there of following golf, but I don't know the exact parameters of that. It's not simple. Maybe it is, but it's not advertised enough or something that somebody would focus on to say. How often are you seeing even a golf Twitter out there saying, oh, by the way, this week the A on this means if this guy does this, then this. Nobody cares. You're not going to see that. It's not going to be a storyline. They haven't done a good job with it.
Again, I just think that when we used to have Riviera and it was Tiger's tournament, not 100% of the people who showed up to play at the Players or the Masters played in that event, but 65%, 70% did. It was still a super strong field. And that was alluring because you had 20 really good guys against, the mid-card guys, the guys trying to play for a card, whatever it might be. And that was a somewhat limited field event. Bay Hill was very much the same way. Memorial always ended up the same way. But now they're just forcing everyone to play in these events. And sometimes it seems like guys don't even want to be there.
I do agree. It depends because also too, like you said, when the money's just guaranteed essentially.
Why wouldn't you show up?
What would be the difference?
Agree.
That's the big part. You need them to get embarrassed. I know it's not good for TV, and that's what people keep saying is that obviously if 10 of the guys go out on Friday and then they don't get them over the weekend, that's what's losing the sponsors and pissing off the everything else that goes with it. But my point would more be to yours a little bit as well, is that it's like you need those guys to get embarrassed. They need to be playing for something that matters. And if those are the things, there should be some, like you could do something like that too, like those events, but they already spike them a little bit, I guess. I don't know. You can't really make the Genesis the same as the Masters, even though it does have history and it is that tournament and Tiger and all these other factors. It's like, can you make it the Masters? You still can't.
No, you can't. And right now the majors set themselves apart because the live guys can play in them. And then that is everyone coming together to have this like super tournament amongst all the best players in the world. Whereas before the majors still did that because no one all played in the same tournaments all the time. Mm-hmm. And now it just seems like, I don't know, it just feels like the signature events now feel watered down in a weird way, despite the fact that all the best players are playing.
I gave them a shot from the start. Like a lot of people hated them right out of the gate, and good on them because it turned out to be correct. I'll definitely take that L, but I think that, now going through it and like you said, getting to it, it's definitely that where it's like you already know, like now it's broken. It doesn't work. It's not good. It doesn't excite me. Like this week is not something I'm super thrilled for as much as I'm still going to put a ton of money in, play it. I love doing the content we're going after. I like watching these guys play golf. It's not as exciting as what's going to be next week because you can't recreate a major. That's like you said. And just even the stuff this week of like the invites for the major and getting behind some of that stuff and seeing it, like all those little things add up to make next week super exciting. The majors just constantly are exciting. These events are not.
All right, well, let's talk about our underdog draft. We just banged one out as we were...
I like my team.
Yeah, did you like your team? I ended up with Hideki and Thigala as my first two picks, which I like very much.
And I got Wyndham and Hovland as my first two picks.
Yeah, Wyndham and Hovland. Where do we go here? I got to go back to drafts. Active. Completed?
Yeah, completed.
There we go. So yeah, here we go. That was the second. That was the auto draft one. Yeah. So on Thigala and because I had the 6 pick, you had the 2 pick.
Yeah.
So I ended up with Thigala and Hideki, and then at the next wraparound, I went with Henley and Noren, and then I went with Knapp and Taylor Moore. I tried to get. I ended up coming like 15th in this last week.
I did well last week. I was winning it for a while. People tagged me because I had that AM stack and it went off, and then it ended up dropping. But it was still nice. A nice finish in it. Got some cash out of it. But what does your projected say on the top right there?
163. So it's going to be really low.
That's pretty close. I'm 165.9. I got Clark, Hovland, Justin Thomas, Adam Scott, Jordan Spieth, and Adam Schenk. The double AS combo there with the Adam Scott, Adam Schenk.
And I went with, I was going to take Ben An or Noren with the pick that I had at the wraparound. I decided to go with Noren this week. Mm-hmm. Probably should have went with, my numbers just much prefer Ben An.
Okay.
Yeah, just made a decision there because I had Ben An in the other one that I did. But I have a lot of faith in Thigala and Hideki just as plays for the week. Hopefully on Thursday they can spike. Thigala, I believe, was 4 or 5 under after the first round last year. Taylor Moore was in 3rd after the first round last year. But Knapp and Moore are the 2 players, along with actually Kevin Tway, weirdly enough, the players at the bottom that I'm looking at in the skill set that I want for Quail Hollow. If it's going to be windy, that's tough. But if it's still a little bit soggy from the night before, you're going to want to have that extra distance.
Quick story, because Dad loves Kevin Tway. But back to last week. Remember you pumped him up on Kevin Yu? He switched last minute from Kevin Yu. Do you know who he switched to?
He switched to Kevin Yu?
No, he switched off Kevin Yu.
To Pendrith?
Sungjae Im. Late
Ooh.
WD. He
Well,
was pissed.
It's
Not that
Kevin, you really would have done you much anyway.
it's just still when you get that right out of the gate, he's down in Jamaica and he texts me, "Why is Sungjae not on the board anymore?" Well, about that, I was trying to let you enjoy your vacation, but here's the deal: you're not going to make any money this week.
That's tough.
Yeah, tough scene for Papa Tambo.
I didn't have much Sung. You had Sungjae in our head-to-head. That's why I ended up winning.
I was still up there with you because I also had Pendrith.
You were. You had the other 5 were actually quite good. And I think I had a 5-6 against you.
Yeah,
Because Kevin, you missed the cut on the number. Like, that sucks.
he was fine. Yeah, that's
Toasty
the worst,
missed the cut. I had a bunch of guys miss the cut on the number. And
Oh, I got you again with that too.
what?
Oh, I just did it for everybody else that always thinks it. Because you started chatting about 6 under being a thing, and I said,
Well, it was. Like, I looked
know.
like, am I not allowed to look at it and be like, 600 is probably going to be the cut
It's
here? I don't know
more-
what the hell they're talking about.
It's just a bit now, though, because it's like your one sort of cussed type thing where the minute Mayo starts talking about it, which it's true, you're literally just saying what's possible and how it can happen. People love it. They're tracking it, trailing it. People are at work. They have no access to this stuff, and you're giving them the info.
In fairness,
but it's hit every time.
the difference between Cuss and I is that I've been right about it.
Correct. It's like it's anti-cussed. But it's when as soon as you start chatting about it, I say congrats to the -6 backers. It was not a few more holes after that, and boom, we're all the way there, 100% 6 under. So way she goes, but lots of really good lineups last week with 5-6, with like a Dietrich, a U, these types of guys that were all sitting at 5 under, and they're just not going to count for anything when it gets to that point.
Bogeys are worse for round 1 and pick 'em on Underdog, right?
Sure. I like that.
That's what we're looking at.
I like it. What do you have?
It's just everyone is around like 3 or 3.5 bogeys or worse.
There's going to be bogeys.
There's gonna be bogeys. I mean, there's bogeys anyway at this course.
I would honestly just be comfortable with hitting some of the 3s. I don't think there's any 2.5s, but if you could hit all the 3s, you'll get some pushes. But, it honestly is not as much about who the person is as much of how the course is playing. And we talked about all that stuff already. So I think they're all capable. I'd be looking to hit some of those 3s for sure.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure it out. Like, they're bet down a little bit. So, like, Victor higher than 3 bogeys or worse plays 0.9 instead of 1. But you could probably anti-correlate that I actually like Tommy Fleetwood 3.5 birdies or better. I just the shittier the conditions, like Tommy will actually probably play pretty well.
Finds it, yeah.
If the conditions are pristine, he'll probably play crap. But if he can just make some birdies, he's probably going to make some bogeys at the same time. But if you correlate those two together, even though the Victor one pays a little bit less, you can find anyone else like to go with it with. Like Rory, you could do 3 bogeys or more. Guy makes bogeys. That happens. Or just pick Spieth.
Yeah.
Spieth loves bogeys.
Spieth is the best underdog pick and play there is for everything. He almost hits everything. I wish you could single game parlay just all the, like every single one for him, because it's always the setup where he makes multiple bogeys, but still makes the multiple birdies, still shoots under this number or higher than that number. It's just the way Spieth does it, but he fits it perfectly for that matter.
Yeah, so here will be the pick and play. I'll put this in the newsletter a little bit later on, and it pays 3.56. So it's Spieth, 3 or more bogeys or worse. So 4 bogeys or worse for Jordan Spieth. Watch him come out and be first round leader. And Tommy higher than 3.5 birdies. So 4 birdies Spieth might make 8 birdies. He might make 4 bogeys to go along with it, right?
That's definitely possible. That's the nice part about underdog pick'em.
So let's see. We'll go 250. Pays. No, I want that to equal 1,000. All right, there we go. $333 pays 1,185. That will be the official underdog play of the week.
You went higher 3.5 bogeys or worse with him, and then higher 3.5 birdies for Tommy Fleetwood?
Yeah.
I'm going to tail it here with you while we're live. All right, we can keep it rolling.
You can use if you sub to the newsletter completely free, obviously. I will have a link where you can just tail that if you want to, or you can hit the link to tail it and just do the opposite and think that I'm an absolute moron. And Spieth has a very clean round, and Tommy doesn't make any birdies.
Love that feature, too, by the way, when you just post it out. It's got the link, and you can
You just click it and it populates on your
auto-tail
app.
it. It's like, but then you might post 3 or 4 of them. Like, oh damn! Now I can only click the first one. Then I got to build the other ones.
I've been doing that for UFL.
Yes, that's what it was
Although
last week.
I only hit one of the UFL ones this week. I was
Missing by a little, just a little.
I lost on a hook on one of them that was a
Yeah.
10x. Like, that sucks. But you keep.
Went back in the account and just looked at all like the 1x or whatever, like the one loss. I was like, so close on that.
I
one,
almost
so close
prefer
on
to
that.
have like the 3 red.
Yeah, I'd rather
rather
just
than
cut
have
me
the
out,
one red.
zero me out versus that. Exactly, it's the worst.
The newsletter pick has hit 3 consecutive newsletters. So let's see if we can make it 4 in a row here with the Spieth and Tommy one. You can do that with code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy. Let's get to the bets for the week.
What do you got? Sell me on something.
I actually feel good this week about my bets. The only thing that I was thinking about adding was Rory first round leader.
Good way to do
16 to 1.
A Rory pick, yeah.
So you can check out the newsletter later on to see if I end up doing that. I probably won't. I feel like I'm invested enough between the two tournaments, but I feel good about the picks this week unless Xander, Clark, or Rory runs away with it. I feel like my guys are super live here. So if Wells Fargo, I got Hideki at 30, Cam Young at 35, Thigala, I used my 30% boost on to get him up to 40 to 1. I hopped on the early Zalatoris Monday morning at 55 to 1, and I bet Jake Knapp 125 to 1 with 8 places. That's what I got. First round leader, Jake Knapp, 75 to 1 with 5 places. Kevin Tway, 110 to 1 with 10 places.
Okay. Yeah. The Thigala one seems like everyone in the world has it, so of course it's gonna.
Yeah, just fade him then.
I don't know. I like him still. I wonder what is the overall take on that. Like it's 40 to 1 is still solid, but.
Yeah, I mean he's down to 25 in some places. I used the Bet365.
Yeah, the number you got was good
up.
to boost it up, but I mean like yeah.
I mean, he makes sense. I mean, the guy's been basically at the top of the leaderboard in every tournament outside of 2 for the past 3 months. He just hasn't won.
Yeah.
He has a win, but this would be a much more major win than him winning in Napa.
It's just, yeah, he's been playing good. That's what it is. Because even on DraftKings, when we get there, the sticker shock of like 9,100 is not crazy, but it's then you look at like he's above Matsuyama. Think about your rankings that you did recently. Like obviously Matsuyama still should rate pretty highly. He's $200 cheaper.
Matsuyama hasn't played in a month. I think that's why it is.
Part of it for sure. Yeah, and you got like Fitz, Siwoo, JT. Like there's just big names down there that you're used to seeing a lot more. So it'll be good when we get to building those lineups. I think this week when we get to DraftKings could be a good setup for some of our guys that you think will cost a bunch more later on, and just taking that and just playing off of it.
So I also bet on Myrtle Beach. I have 4 bets for Myrtle Beach. I bet Justin Lauer at 45 to 1, Ben Martin at 75 to 1, Jorge Campillo at 80 to 1, and Smelly Kelly Craft 110 to 1 with 3 places.
Okay.
I played the top 3 each way with him, and it boosted up his outright odds, and it made enough financial sense to do it that way. So if he comes in second, I'm still going to have a pretty good week. I ran my Fantasy National numbers. And, if you do it today, by the way, fantasynational.com/Mayo, get you 20% off. Get the weekly membership today that gets you Myrtle Beach, Wells Fargo, and PGA Championship, and gives you exclusive access to the Fantasy National Leaderboard app, which is something that you're going to want to be using to track golf. Probably not. I don't know if ShotLink is available for Myrtle Beach or not, so it might not be great for that, but it's going to be awesome for Wells Fargo and PGA Championship because they use ShotLink data too. And I did make a future. I have a Wyndham Clark future for the PGA Championship. I have one for the U.S. Open, one for the PGA Championship. One is 66 to 1, one is 50 to 1. I can't remember which is which.
Both nice.
But I bet Thigala at 66 to 1 for the PGA Championship next week. Like I bet it's not that those odds don't make any sense. Maybe he will be 65 to 1, but he was just like 40 to 1 at the Masters. And he's 25 to 1 this week.
Yeah, and the field's getting boosted up a little, but
not that. And if he has a good week, that number is gone.
Someone said that the Scotty tax next week, which by the way, we still don't know on any of these kids. I have to assume Burns had his kid, and we just don't know about it publicly. We'll find out today. Because he was ready to leave. It was like due the week of the Masters, like that following week. It's been weeks. He's here playing this week still. He hasn't WD'd, so I'd have to assume.
One and done picks for the week for the 3-man. I have Cam Young, Jeff has Rory, and Cust has Wyndham Clark.
Okay. No homas in the mix.
No homas. No. We're going no homas this week.
All right.
Do you like homa?
I just thought he's fine. Yeah, it seems like usually people would want him.
Yeah, it feels like the roses off the bloom with him a little bit, although he just almost did win. He didn't almost win the Masters, I guess. But
Best major finish ever.
He was there to win the Masters.
Yeah, he's back in it, man. I'm definitely interested, yeah.
All right, I'm still inside the money in the giant one and done. I used Mac Hughes last week. He made the cut. What a weird week for him. He had a terrible round 1, then a great round 2, then a terrible round 3.
I think it was 264s, right? Or
yeah, and then
266s?
I think it was 265s. He was 7 under in round 2. I remember that.
Okay. So yeah, that's another guy they just have to know. Like that's the thing. $8,600 last week. There's another guy near that price this week that we'll get to that whatever. But he almost scored Siwoo ended up getting like 111 points in 13th place, which he was the chalk. So that's why I bring him up. But then you had $8,600 Mac Hughes, who had like 102 points. He was like right behind him in points, had an eagle and 2 spike rounds. And way less money, way less ownership. Like it was all solid, and he still comes through and scores for you.
I'm actually weirdly interested in him next week. Valhalla's a Nicklaus design. Mac Hughes has played basically his best golf at Nicklaus courses over the course of his career. He's going to be 250 to 1 or something.
He's got a one-up Pendrith, too. He was there having the beer with him after,
Yeah.
saying, you were there for my first, I'm here for yours. Now he's thinking, how do I get that second? Why not do it in a major? But that is a good question. Two Canadians here talking golf. What Canadian do you think is most likely to win a major now?
Connors.
You still think it's Connors?
Connors is the best of all those guys.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too, but I just was curious your thoughts because there has been other stuff like Nick Taylor been in the conversation, Taylor Pendrith, that's cool to see. Like, Hughes, you just mentioned talking about winning a major next week, possibly. Again, it's a long shot bet, I'm saying, but reasons that you could say, like, I could see it. Maybe it's a each way play and he ends up hitting that. But my point being, it's just a good conversation for Canadians right now. They've been in the mix.
Well, weirdly, I think Hughes he would probably be like last on the list when you think about overall skills of what it would take. Like, I guess if Pendrith got better, Pendrith would be the answer because he can just bomb it. And he's the only Canadian that really does bomb it off the tee. Where Connors is plus average, plus accuracy, great irons, can't chip, can't putt. Which I find really strange. You think that Canadians would be awesome at chipping and putting. Because you can't play in the middle of winter. All you can do is work on your short game.
And why does Adam Hadwin have such a good short game and these other guys can't translate it over and
like
things like that?
Dillette was kind of the same way. Like, Dillette was sort of like the proto Corey Connors.
Yeah.
And then he got like the legitimate yips around the greens. Then he hurt his back and couldn't play anymore. But Mac Hughes and Hadwin have the one skill where you could steal like an open championship. They might just make every putt.
That is true. Definitely love that call. But the other thing is about you made me think about with Pendrith is it's like a Canadian Wyndham Clark. If somehow he could figure out the other shit, he'd be a real problem. It's just he typically hasn't. And now getting the win last week is obviously a nice boost and start to that, but it reminds me of that spot with Clark. Everyone said if he could figure out the irons and stuff with the short game, you'd see him in the mix. And now look at him all the time, and we'll get to him here in a minute.
So for the giant one and done, I'm still in the money at the moment. I've used Rory. I've used Wyndham Clark. I've used Ludwig. Probably don't want to use him this week now that he's WD'd. There's no chance that he is missing next week. It's not happening.
Not at all. I think even Zalatoris, which we'll talk about this week, was like precautionary with the back. Sungjae, sick. Yeah, he flew back from Korea after a win.
Sick of fucking being there in Texas.
Probably. So we'll see. But yeah, I definitely think Ludwig's going to be back in the mix heavy next week, and he should be popular once we see pricing.
So my best options right now are Xander, Hovland, Harmon by ranking, but I'm not going to use Harmon. I'll probably use Harmon at Travelers. If there's a spot to use him, that's probably the spot. Homa, Fleetwood, Thigala, Morikawa. I've used Fitz and Hideki. I've used Keegan. I got Henley and Cam Young. It feels like a good spot to burn Xander. A lot of people have used him already. Like, he's only available for 45% of people anyway.
Do you have Cantlay still?
I do. No, I don't have Cantlay.
Okay,
I used him at Genesis.
Well, this is why I asked. Just theory. We don't always go into this on this, but like if you had Cantlay still, I like the toss-up of those two because I'm thinking Memorial. I like Xander at Memorial, like Xander at U.S. Open. Like I think there's other spots to use him, but if you don't have, it's not like I would have liked Cantlay at Memorial too. So if you don't have him, maybe you save Xander and use somebody else. I kind of liked your, Fleetwood, Homa, Morikawa range. That's kind of what I'm liking here because what are we using them for?
I don't know.
I don't know what we're using Homa for after this. Maybe I'm missing it, but his time is like what we always use him for. He's got to be lower percentage for what's left of him as well, too.
He's available to 61% of the people in the Mayo Cup right now.
Okay.
I could see it. I could use him on my other team, which really would need a boost, but I could use like Hideki. I could use Fitz. I don't think anyone will use Fitz. I've really been drawn to Russell Henley this week for everything besides an outright bet, so you can almost like pencil him in to be winning this event. So I'll have him everywhere besides an outright win.
He's probably the same odds as Thigala, too, so everyone will be mad they could have just clicked him instead.
Well, when we get to DraftKings, I mentioned it with Byron yesterday that he's like the best DraftKings play of the week. No one's going to use this guy.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to get to him when
he's been
all
playing
those other
like
options around.
Good golf.
Yeah.
Really good golf at like good courses too. Like courses that you would think about this and just it doesn't make any sense.
Sold.
Outright.
I'm in.
Fade Wyndham Clark, play Russell Henley. There's your DraftKings picks for the week.
Yeah, we got it. I don't know. I think for one and done though, if you use Xander, it's obviously not a problem. That's great. But I like that second tier, I think, better. Or do you have Thigala? Double down on him?
I do. Well, I have Rory and Wyndham available on my other team too. And I got to think, like, am I going to use them at majors? This tournament, I think, pays more than the Open Championship. Like, these signature events are like where the money is made.
Mm-hmm. You got to have it here, yeah.
And I can use the live guys. I can use Brooks next week.
Definitely using some of those guys the next 2
I'm
weeks.
using Brooks.
Or the next two majors, I should say. Rahm and Brooks. At the
Or
next
Bryson-
twos.
or Bryson
Or
next
Bryson,
week.
yeah,
Yeah.
one of those three.
Yeah, probably don't want Bryson at Pinehurst. Doesn't seem like a real Bryson course.
Yeah,
Seems more like a Brooks course.
I wouldn't mind Bryson next week.
I'll use Rory this week. I'll double down with Jeff. I need to come back in this anyway. I need like a big win because I'm 25th or 2500 place right now at a 44-44.
I think that's right. Mine is at like 2400th. So now I had Norin last week, which was okay. Got me a little bit of cash. It's not enough to do anything.
The thing that I've started to understand about the strategy of the one and done is that anything that's not a major or signature event is literally useless. It doesn't matter what you do. If you get a win, that's great.
You needed like Bez when no one had him at the event where Dunlap wins and can't claim the money. Things like that. Like if you get that, maybe it's a boost, but signature events and majors rule all, mostly signatures, like you said right now with how much money's up top.
So I'll use Xander on the team that's in the money in 400th place, and I'll use Rory and the one in the back end. And then I really need to do some readjustment. I might have to use Mac Hughes on that other team next week just to see if I can be the only one who picks Mac Hughes and he wins to fight back in the tournament just to get back in the money that way. It's weird playing two teams where you have to change your strategy for both teams at the same time too.
It's probably helpful though for future years.
Yeah, well, you get to see
one
how
and done's
you have
not
to
going
play it.
anywhere, so you get to play it out. Yeah.
Yeah, and when there's no difference between coming in last place and the one spot out of the money. It's no different.
Yeah, everyone just wants the min. Well, once you're out of it, you just want the min cash so you can have the buy-in sitting there for next year.
Let's move on to DraftKings. Try to win some money this week. Cashed again in the $250 and saved my week, which is always nice. You won, what was it, 10 grand?
Yeah, round two showdown was nice. People said you can't win money once Sungjae WDs. I did have money in on Sungjae for the classic slate, but still made it out to be a pretty good week, so it was solid. Showdown was nice last week. It was the main slate that's been tough.
And the main slate the past couple weeks have been tough. And I was able to sneak a few 6s through that I really liked. I mean, Kevin Tway and Kelly Kraft were actually really helping me out. Mm-hmm. And Norlander. And then Norlander was like 7 over on. I think he was the only guy over par on the weekend.
Yeah, that's the worst when that happens. You get it through and then one guy does nothing or it goes backwards.
Yeah, everyone else is shooting 63. He's like, 77's good enough for me.
Yeah.
So that's always fun. But code Mayo, or actually fantasynational.com/Mayo to get 20% off at Fantasy National right now. I'm going to use the lineup generator, the ownership tools. You get the leaderboard app, and it's 3 for 1 this week. You get Myrtle Beach, you get Wells Fargo, and the PGA Championship because it's a 7-day membership on the weekly. You get 20% off. I think it's $7 or $6, something like that. So go do that right now if you haven't done that. It seems like a pretty good deal to me. And code Mayo at shipitnation.com as well.
Yep, get the month.
We talked about Lee's course fit rankings and how Pendrith rated so highly in them last week as one of the reasons you kept going to Pendrith with all of your lineups on the show, and then boom.
Gets the win. I got a guy this week. He's got another one up there, but the course fit rankings are out. We have our own optimizer now, Shiptimizer in-house, so you guys get access to that if you get the monthly or more, so use code Mayo. That'll lock it in. It's our birthday celebration next Wednesday, 1-year anniversary.
Is that true? It's been a year?
May 15th next week, so pretty exciting stuff there, and lots of giveaways, things like that, members-only stuff that'll be in there, so the time to get in is now. Use code Mayo, shipitnation.com.
How much is it for, do you want to give away a month on Ship It Nation as a part of the PME giveaways?
Sure.
There we go. So we got 2 Fantasy Nationals, we got a Ship It Nation and $500 cash.
Yeah, whatever you're thinking.
I mean, if you really want to get ahead of the game, one of the major things for the giveaway is to go follow Mayo Media Network on Instagram and TikTok. If people have noticed with the YouTube shorts, we've been populating a lot more of those from the shows recently. We have way more over on Instagram and over on TikTok, and we want to try to help build that up. So if you go follow that, that's all you got to do. Just go to Instagram, follow Mayo Media Net. Go to TikTok, follow Mayo Media Net. Boom, instantly put you in the draw for all of these things. And there's going to be other ways to do it. The main thing that you need to do is use code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy to get yourself in, as that will be the most ballots that you can get, but always the ratings and reviews and all the things like that. But we're really going to hammer down on the code Mayo, and we're going to hammer down on Instagram and TikTok for this round of giveaways. So please go help us out in that fashion. Thank you very much. If we try to build what we think is going to be the chalkiest type of lineup this week, do you think it starts with Rory, Xander, or Wyndham?
It's Rory or Wyndham.
Let's say Wyndham, because I think you can then go Hideki. I think Decky's going to be super popular at 89. And I would say the Thigala is probably right behind him, but I don't know how that all ends up shaking out. Once you get Clark and Matsuyama, you end up at $7,700 per player. So who's the cheap guy everyone's using?
Man, it looks like it's pretty spread out this week all over the place, but I guess you've got your main guys up top that we talked about. Just going down the board, if you're looking in that 7K range.
I'm seeing Taylor Moore pretty popular at 67.
Yeah, I'm still thinking it's going to be like Kitayama or maybe Jake Knapp or something like that gets closer to 10%, but I just don't see a lot of ownership in general down there. I'm wondering what you see in the sevens, though, because it's hard to tell if it's going to be like Zalatoris, Connors,
Bhatia.
Scott,
Bhatia.
Yeah, like I see Bhatia for sure popping, so I think he fits the mold at 7,500.
So we'll get him in there. So Akshay's going in. I like him this week. I just did not like his odds. I like him much better at 7,500 on DraftKings, not 40 to 1.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to bet him at 40 to 1 in this field, just take a pass on that and bet him at 100 to 1 next week.
It's just, I think it's the no cut factor makes way more sense too. Like you said, you're playing it, 7,500 on DraftKings, below the average price by quite a bit.
And a
get
guy's gonna
that scoring
fire
out of him,
it,
and you
he's
need
gonna
two good rounds.
Fire at every pin.
Yeah, you just want two really good rounds. Like it's the Mac Hughes effect. You get those two spike rounds, kind of really doesn't matter what happens in the other two. If you have an okay week, you're not going to completely blow up on those rounds. So yeah, that's what you're looking for.
So what we're doing with the rest of our team from here.
You got Decky in still?
I do have Decky in,
Okay.
yeah. I think that it either ends up going high-low where we get up to Thigala or Cam Young or Justin Thomas, Tony Finau. Tony Finau seems to be weirdly popular this week. I don't get it.
Yeah, 8K flat. Again, another thing, like a no cut.
So you could go Finau, Adam Scott, someone. Jagger. I think that might actually work. That's probably the team, now that I say it out loud.
I was trying to see if you got to your Thigala play.
I was thinking that too, but there's no one that works out with Jagger 75. So it'd be Pendrith, Harris English.
Harris English, plug him in.
Do you think Harris English is going to be more popular than Pendrith?
Yeah.
Okay.
Guy coming off a win, usually not too popular, but
I mean, why wouldn't people like Pendrith at this course?
I don't know. I just think people don't like guys coming off a win.
Okay. So the team would be Clark, Matsuyama, Finau, Adam Scott, Bhatia, English. So 110K, no 9K, but Matsuyama's 8-9. Then you have Finau at 8,000, then 3 sevens.
And now how do we swap it? I think you're right with your Taylor Moore version of if he is the popular 6K guy, who goes down, who goes up? I think you said get Thigala in there, right? So Thigala is 9,100.
So do we just drop Harris English out and make him Taylor Moore?
I think so.
Okay, and then we instantly turn Finau into... we don't get quite up there. So let's put in Thigala at 91. Do you think Thigala or Fleetwood will be more popular?
I think Thigala.
Okay, so that means we need to... I mean, you could just very easily drop down Adam Scott to... I guess you easily cannot do that because that drops you below Harris English. Then you're in that... Is Hoagie going to be popular?
I don't see him being that popular, but people do love Hoagie, so it's hard to say. I got him under 10% for sure right now.
Do you think it's Shank or Hoagie?
Shank.
Okay, so it's drop down Scott to Shank. Or Bhatia to Shank, sorry.
So Shank, take Bhatia out, leave.
So now you got Wyndham Clark, Matsuyama, Thigala with Adam Scott, Adam Shank, and Taylor Moore.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that is about what it is. Both the same projection, but it's just how you get to the other chalk version of getting the 6K guy in with Thigala and Matsuyama.
I don't love these lineups. I'll show you the one that I built. Like my first gut reaction build to the week was this lineup. Thigala, Matsuyama, Cam Young, Russell Henley, Ben An, Jake Knapp. So my highest price guy is Thigala. So it's 9-1, 8-9, 8-8, 8-3, 8-1, 65.
And you have 300 left on the table?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost projects the same, but you're going to get a lot lower ownership on a lot of these guys.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it depends what you like. I kind of like this spot you mentioned for Henley that you talked about. It seems like Cameron Young, people have sort of cooled on him a little bit. He's 8,800, and you've got other guys around him, so it's a chance that they go there instead. But, like, the other thing is JT just keeps popping everywhere. So people are just going to play him because of the price and no cuts and all that, right?
Price, no cut. He won a major championship at this course.
Right.
You can't overlook that fact. So the main reason that I liked Russell Henley was who can we pick out of this field who is going to be wildly low owned but can still really pop for you DraftKings wise? And is Henley going to win? Probably not.
Right.
But if he's going to be the one guy in the 8,000s that literally no one has, you might want to go with him. The other one in the $7,000 range that I felt exactly the same way about was Shane Lowry. Now, I know I get sucked into playing Shane Lowry every week. Dude can't make a 3-foot putt unless he's teamed with Rory, apparently. But this is a great course for him. He plays long, hard courses really well. Maybe someday he will make a putt, but just to see Shane Lowry coming off a win, albeit carried by Rory, at $100 more than Bhatia or Jaeger, and those guys are going to be double to triple what he's owned, or Adam Scott, who might be 3 to 4 times what he's owned. Was the last time Adam Scott did anything was at this tournament last year.
Yeah, people give him a hard time. I continuously bring it up. He's scoring like crazy for what he is, and now he's 7,700.
He scored fewer points than Mac Hughes last week.
And he cost a lot less, and I think point per dollar was almost the same. I looked it all up on Monday. I went through a whole big spiel on it, but it's the same thing. He finishes T20th or T30th, and he's still scoring up there with the other guys. And it's just the product of the fields that he's playing in. But this field is a little bit stronger. I get it. I just don't think he's wildly over-owned here or something. Like, I think he's going to be 12 to 15% range.
I think that he ends up more than that because I think that people are more hesitant to play Zalatoris on DraftKings. I think they're far more comfortable betting him outright. I know I am. I'm speaking from personal experience.
Well, people were because you got him at like 58 and now he's down to 30 or something.
Yeah, but like that makes sense. Like if he sucks, and you lose your outright bet. Whatever. You bet on losers every single week anyway.
People should start thinking about their DraftKings lineups the exact same way you just said.
I tend to agree with you.
That's for sure. Not against you, just generally. That's funny you make that statement. It's true. It's like that's what people are like, oh.
But that's the mentality
got me
behind it.
Screwed. It's like that's the whole, you only one lineup can win. When, I had 30% Sungjae last week. Sounds like you got 70% of lineups that are still live. Only one of those could have won at the end of the week. So it's just part of the, cost of doing business. But yeah, I agree. I think that makes sense to me. It looks like maybe Day, Burns, some of those guys are going to go overlooked in here. Any thoughts on them? My Burns mentioned earlier, maybe I got to it too early, but just of note, there's no information on the situation, but he had to, you just think that he had the baby. It's been weeks.
So you can be one of two ways about this. You can use the mentality that you just mentioned to be like, whatever. I mean, if you use 30% Burns and he leaves, well, then whatever. I don't want to use Burns anyway. So I just don't want to play him. I don't think he's playing well. I don't think it's a good course for him. I'd rather just play Shane Lowry, who's probably going to be lower owned than Burns anyway, or right around the same. And
I think Burns is going to be like 4 or 5%,
and I think Lowry's going to be 4 to 6%.
Yeah, maybe. I got double digits on Lowry.
I don't, because I think Bhatia sucks up all of the energy there. Bhatia and Adam Scott. Adam Scott will end up higher than maybe you project. And Corey Connors is there to steal that thunder too.
Yeah, it's it's splitting hairs because it doesn't matter if they're all like this is just like last week. If they're all going to be 10% or less, or 5 to 12%, it's all the same shit. Just get your guys that you want in there and play them. And that's to your point. You like Lowry more than Burns.
Exactly. Yeah. But even to see it like right now on the screen in front of me, to see I like Bhatia. I'm going to use him, but he might be 20% owned when it comes in. Mm-hmm. He might just be the guy everyone takes in the mid sevens. People will try to talk themselves into Jaeger and be like, well, I can just take Bhatia instead.
The low sevens are going to just crush. You can already tell because nobody wants to play in these guys. Taylor Pendrith off a win, Harris English, Sepp Straka, Denny McCarthy, Tom Hoagie. Shank probably gets love, but then there's Chris Kirk and Tom Kim is 7,000. He would fit the one of earlier that we talked about, like guys that I would expect to be. I was just told on Netflix he's a global superstar when I watched Full Swing, and now he's global superstar is down to 7K.
He's making putts.
He can do a lot of things. It's just whether or not it's his week or not. But back to the original mentality and thought process, it's like 7K in a no cut for Tom Kim here. He can have those 500, 600, rounds on the weekend or something. Maybe when the weather calms down a little bit, where you see it. So, I don't know.
Let's try to think that through. Who do you think that the weather the first 2 days actually helps? Do you think it's the Bombers because they get the ball out there a bit longer, or are the Bombers at somewhat of a penal state because there's so much wind that they might get thrown off course? Do we want to be looking at like JT Poston?
I think it's usually for me, it's the grinders.
So Poston would
because
be that
they're all
guy.
going to get it out there, whatever, and then it's going to be a matter of what can you do around the greens if you're not going to be hitting them and stuff and making those putts and things like that. So maybe some of those other guys, like you were looking at, I still think certain guys fit both molds. Like I could see Henley still grinding through it.
Yeah, Taylor Moore is exactly the other example of that type of guy. That he's going to get it, he bombs it, and he gets it up and down from around the green. It's the iron play that's so bad for him.
So, that's Moore, Henley. Who are some of the other guys you think can really grind it out here? Like a Noren or a Fleetwood?
Noren, Fleetwood, Ben Ann. Although Ben Ann might not make the putts, but he can grind. I would say Hadwin's another one who grinds.
How much is, did I miss Noren? What's his price?
Noren's like 84. No, he's 82, sorry. Him and Ben Ann, 82 and 81. Just back to back right there.
Can Hovland?
Grind? Can Victor Hovland grind? No.
I'm saying Hovland versus like Theegala in this instance. Hovland's definitely been able to grind at like the Open and places like that. It just depends on if he actually.
Hovland has not
the
been able to
setup for
grind at the Open. He went to an Open where the winning score was -20 and hit every green regulation. Never
Well, he
had-
also could just putt from off the green. That was the other
Yeah.
thing too there. But I wouldn't hate it if it landed on that.
That's actually, you know what? That's interesting. Because that's what you do at Pinehurst. There's no, I mean, you can chip if you want to, but there's a lot of putting from off the green at Pinehurst. If Victor flashes anything here, the numbers have already started to get killed for the majors. I haven't seen anything from him, although he played like all right at the Masters, didn't he? Or did he miss the cut at the Masters? He missed the cut at the Masters. All right, so yeah, nothing.
Then he took a break.
Yeah. So maybe he's been off grinding because the approach was coming back for him a little bit. The driving was starting to come back, which had faltered a little bit. But it was really the approach play that was the problem. Like he was losing strokes on approach or breaking even with the field. Whereas when you looked at him last year, he was gaining like 5 strokes a week off the tee and like 3 to 5 on approach. And then, yeah, you can have like not a bad chipping week, but an okay chipping week, average chipping week, and make a few putts and have it all be wiped away because the ball striking is so good. And that just he lost 7 strokes chipping at the Players.
Oh, I
7.
know. It's
That's
not good.
That seems impossible.
He says it's good, then he lost his coach, and you got it like all these different things. But back to your grinder lineup, it actually solves it pretty quickly. You can go, listen to this lineup: Wyndham, Fleetwood, Russell Henley, Alex Noren, Taylor Moore, and Adam Hadwin.
Taylor Moore, Adam Hadwin,
Your 2 6K grinders.
Noren,
No 7K guys because you go Noren and Henley.
and who was Henley? Was
Fleetwood and Clark to round it out.
I like that lineup.
No 7K guys.
I guess I have to go back because I'm entering these lineups as we go. So I guess I will not have 0% of Wyndham Clark because I will be entering this lineup.
That it just fit because of what we said. But again, it just goes to show to your original point of why a guy like Clark will get boosted up is because that $1,000 goes a long way. I mean, Xander would be great in this lineup. It's $1,000.
That was funny. The first thing that I thought of is Xander would be great in this lineup instead of Wyndham Clark with this like the style that we're trying to go with here.
Is there? What about Sepp can grind? Would you give up Henley for Sepp?
No, I
don't think
wouldn't.
so. I wouldn't want to do it for that reason.
But if you were like to have that theme, you would give up Henley to Denny. Denny's the guy who grinds.
Okay, shit. Let me get this one in first. I was going to go Noren to Kirk because to me, they're the same guy. Chris Kirk can definitely grind, and then I'll get Xander, and that projects the same. But if I take it back down and go Kirk and Henley, I liked your call. You go to Denny versus Henley, same dude, and then you get back to, oh, wait a second. We can, then you can get them both. We had $100 on the table.
So who do we have in here?
So you can get Xander Fleetwood and then go Henley, Denny, Moore, Hadwin. Or you can change Henley to Noren if you want to say this guy becomes him. But yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Xander, Fleetwood, Noren, Denny, Moore, Hadwin. Who are the other grinder type guys from the bottom?
Well, I was just going to ask, who would you have out of the 6,700s between Taylor Moore and Adam Hadwin? Who would you prefer to have?
I would prefer Taylor Moore, but I keep just circling back and looking at Lucas Glover.
I like Glover too here.
Like just tee to green, he's so good.
You know who else can grind?
He just can't putt. It's a real problem. He's won at this course before, though.
Benny Ann can't grind, but
He can grind.
He could.
It's just he misses the 2-foot putt.
yeah. So if you had that one, you could get Keegan in there.
Yeah, the anti-grinder.
Keegan's 6,900. He can definitely grind. He can play well here, actually, at 6,900, but I like the Glover call. But then you just land in the same zone. It's just then you're siphoning around these $6,700 guys, like Glover over Hadwin or Glover over Moore, or you keep mixing them.
The answer to the who grinds the most out of all these guys is at 6,600, and it's Mac Hughes.
Yeah, we got to go back to him now.
I don't know if I don't like Mac Hughes at this course.
Oh, you know what's so funny, actually? If you take out Henley and Glover,
You get Hideki.
no, you get the same dude, the Canadian and the American version. Who's the same as Hughes? Jordan Spieth projects the best of all the ones we pulled so far.
There is zero chance I'm playing Jordan Spieth this week.
He can grind.
No, he can't.
Magic
actually.
around the greens,
He
Pat.
actually can't do that.
Magic around the greens. He's got it. Double magic beans with Xander, Fleetwood, McCarthy, and Moore. This is like all the guys that this lineup would tilt a lot of people if it gets there.
Oh, it would get there because 5 of those guys would chip in twice on Sunday. You'd be like,
Yes.
oh my God, like Spieth's dead in the water, chips it in.
Okay, what if this? Mac Hughes, Moore, and Glover, and then build it up, like top down. Can you get like Hideki, Xander, and Fleetwood. Wow, that's pretty nice.
Xander, Fleetwood, Hideki?
Yeah, and that one projected the best. So it just shows that you can get these 3 6K guys in. You can mix your Hadwin play in too because we have the $100 from. Actually,
I mean, I don't like Hadwin. I was just saying there's guys down here I actually do like. So let's do my version of this.
Okay, what do you like?
Of guys that I like. I like Tway at 62. I like Knapp at 65, and I like Moore or Kitayama. Like those are the 2 guys that I like. So we go Tway, Knapp, Moore. We have 10,200.
this is a Bombers lineup.
It is a pure Bombers line.
So let's get the Bombers up top that you like.
Rory and
Okay.
Xander, and then we drop down to 73. Nah, I don't like that range. Damn
Ooh,
it.
Kitayama.
Kitayama fits it as well. Pendrith fit. I mean, we don't even have enough money for Pendrith. So maybe we lose Xander and go Wyndham Clark instead. Fuck, I'm going to end up playing Wyndham Clark.
No. You got it, man. You had it from before. Who was the other guy you said besides Kitayama? It was Knapp. It was Kevin Tway. And I thought there was
And
one
Taylor
more.
Moore, who I already have in this.
Oh, Taylor Moore. He's 6,700. Oh, we're $100 shy.
Yeah, of Pendrith.
I wouldn't drop the full 1,000 on this. I'd try and find 60. Like, what about Patrick Rogers over Knapp? Same thing to me.
I disagree. I mean, one guy's played on tour for 38 years and has never won, despite the fact that people bet him to win every week.
Yeah. And the other guy wins as soon as he comes out. I get it. Like it's
And has actually shown himself to be at the top of leaderboards.
Patrick Rogers?
Patrick Rogers does that like 3 times a year, and then people are like, he does it every week.
No, he's better than that.
He's not better than that. I don't even know how he's in this fucking tournament.
Patrick Rogers is coming in off of a 5th place, Pat.
That's great. And what was he before that?
He had a couple miscuts,
Cut,
then a 25th and a
74.
6th. But I mean, he's a boomer bust play. 6th, 25th, and 5th mixed in with a couple miscuts and a 74th. You know what you're getting. Where's Knapp? 8th place. Oh, what do you do before that? 62nd, 55th, miscut, 45th, 57th. But then you throw a win in there and it makes it look
A
good.
3rd and a win. He made the cut at the Masters.
Hasn't even seen the course before.
I mean, he won at a course he had never seen before. He made the cut at the Masters without seeing it.
I'm just messing around. I don't mind the Knapp call. I was saying if I had to find $100 there because I wanted Pendrith, I would be
I would prefer to use Svensson or Cam Davis over Patrick Rogers.
Cam Davis makes sense. So how much is he again?
He's
64 as well, I think.
He's the same price as Rogers.
So Cam Davis, and that gets you back up. So there you go.
Or you could drop Tway to Woodland.
That doesn't feel exciting.
It's not. It's not good either.
And that one, I don't know if there's a sales pitch for it because miscut, 64th, miscut, 21st, miscut, 72nd, miscut. Like he's not no form. But he played well here twice before in the last 3 years.
Seamus Power is the one.
People like him this week, by the way. I did the tidbits. He
Oh,
was
do they?
almost on every.
It's only. I assume it's the same reason.
I don't think it's gonna. I think this is the opposite actually of what you mentioned earlier with the Zalatoris thing. I think that this is going to be, or I guess it's the same as what you said with the Zalatoris thing, where everyone's betting him, and I don't think it's translating over to DraftKings as much. Maybe it is, but I don't see it.
Is it just because people? I think that has to be a little bit different, solely because.
He's 6,200. Maybe people
exactly.
feel they don't need to go there.
Exactly.
Concept same, reasoning different. Yes. Zalatoris would fit a bunch of builds, but people just are gun shy to play him on DraftKings. Happy to have the bet number.
I will be using Zalatoris on DraftKings, by the way. If you want to give me a 10% Zalatoris versus a 20% Finau, give me Zalatoris.
Can we just build that real quick for a second?
Well, let's finish off this one. Let's see if
Okay.
we can try to figure it out. I think we're finding out it's not super plausible to play a ton of Rory Xander lineups.
I think it's very plausible. I think opposite it, though. Like, you just got to it. All those guys are fine. We named all those 6K guys we like, and we didn't even hit. I guess maybe what you're saying, and I'm not seeing it that way, is that like it's probably that people won't go there as much because they're fine just playing those mid 7K guys.
So let's try this then, because that leaves you with 73. You can. I mean, I don't think that people are going to play Kevin Tway because Pat says, "Hey, I like Kevin Tway. I like a bunch of losers who come in last all the time."
For sure.
So he's probably not a good play. I am going to play him. I played him last week. Came inside the top 10. Worked out great for me.
Yep.
And him having 3 consecutive top 10s is probably not in the cards for him. Either way, he played well enough to get himself into this tournament, and it wasn't just based off 1 week. I think it's actually 3 top 10s in a row. What did him and Kraft come at Zurich? I think they came inside the top 10.
Tway is 9th, 11th, and 3rd.
So yeah, almost 3 top 10s.
TLA would have been a TS, fine.
So if we take Rory and just use Wyndham Clark, how high owned do you think that Oberg would have been higher on the Wyndham Clark if he'd stuck in?
Yes.
I think so,
I
too.
just still thought that even though I thought Oberg was going to get a ton of ownership, but that people would have underestimated how much Clark still would have got in that spot, because eventually at the end of the week, people would have started saying, oh, if Oberg's going to be 25 to 30%, I'm just going to move it over to Clark. He crushes signature events. And then he ends up getting the boost anyway, but now he's getting the boost no matter what.
So you play Rory and Clark. So turn Xander into Clark, and then you get Russell Henley. It's not really the Bombers lineup, or put in Zalatoris, and now we can... If you don't want to play Kevin Tway, you can use Zalatoris in this lineup instead, or Ben Ann.
What do you have right now for a lineup with Rory, Clark, Tway?
Knapp, Moore, Zalatoris.
Oh, Knapp, more Zalatoris.
But it leaves $400 on the table. Like, if you wanted to take Knapp up to Kitayama, you could. If you wanted to take Taylor Moore into Adam Schenk, you could. If you want to turn Kevin Tway into any of the guys that we talked about who are higher, you could turn him into Cam Davis. You could turn him into $6,600. So you could turn him into Eckroat, Hughes, Rose, Pavon, Brendan Todd. Todd Father. Watch out for Todd Father this week.
You know, what's he been up to?
Yeah, just came 5th at the Valero. He was 9th at Bay Hill. It's going to turn into a week where does Brendan Todd make every single one of his putts? He's about due to do that again.
Yeah, that is true. That's what he does. So I would say that 2 of the guys in that lineup you just built could stick around for the I'm way too cheap guys. Like Jake Knapp and Will Zal could definitely be a lot more than 6,500 and 7,900.
Well, I mean, Zal next week, I'm guessing. I mean, his odds are 28 to 1. He's going to be $8,700 next week in a much stronger field.
Are you out on Sungjae?
Yeah.
Off the
I've been out
singles?
on Sungjae for months.
Okay.
I used him last week because as a part of the AM PM stacks, it only had Spieth, Day, and Sungjae in them. Mm-hmm. So I ended up on Sungjae with that. He was not in my mixed at all. I removed him from the player pool just because I haven't seen anything from him that would lead me to believe that he's any good. Outside of his win in Korea, of course, that hot form coming.
Yeah, that's whatever. The thing I was going to say, so I think Knapp, Zal, JT, and Matsuyama is a good start. And then we got a 2v2 it to finish it out. Not a single guy over 9K there, by the way, where you could see it easily, I think. Matsuyama, I don't know, but like JT at 85 is obviously cheap. So
Knapp and Zal. The 2v2 for $9,100. Okay.
Who's the guy in the...
You seem to like Cantlay. We haven't brought him up. We talked about Homa initially, but it does feel like there's more Fleetwood. You know who's playing... You know who's playing...
Spieth?
Really well is getting no credit, and I didn't even think about him in the betting market, and I really should because dude wins events or has won events. It's Morikawa.
Yeah, 9,300.
Yeah,
He fits the mold, and then Cam Young's 8,800.
does that fit in?
Yeah,
I like that lineup. That's a good lineup.
projects well too.
It's funny because it's very reminiscent of that first lineup that I told you I built on my first instinct.
Yeah. And you could obviously change Knapp to another guy if you believe that. Who are the other guys? You liked, I guess, Eckroat, Hughes. Those guys are down there at 66.
Or drop him to Cam Davis if you wanted to, or Kevin Tway, or some version of that.
I just think like Knapp. I was teasing you a little bit earlier, but like Knapp was obviously a guy that you could see. You know, you see him 75, 78. And you don't know. It depends on what he continues to do on tour. But obviously, he's got a skill set that's been working out. So at 6,500. That's just low for a guy like him.
And you get, even when he blew up at Bay Hill, he still, I think, scored really well that week for a guy who lost 11 strokes off the tee because he kept putting it in the water. Like, he made all of his big numbers on like 3 holes.
Man, now you got me, because that's the other thing I was just going to say is a guy like we just talked about it. Like Mac Hughes smashed his $8,600 price tag last week with a rough finish. Like it was just those 2 rounds in the Eagle that he had. This gets you up to, look at this. I kept JT, I kept Matsuyama, I kept Knapp and Zalatoris, and I went to Xander, and it landed me on Mac Hughes.
So who were the 2 that you took out?
We took out
Morikawa and Knapp.
No, I kept Knapp. Who's our
and Cam Young?
Cam Young. Morikawa and Cam Young versus Xander and Mac Hughes. That's pretty close, but it's more of like, what if Xander just wins?
Yeah.
Because it's kind of that thing. It's a no-cut. All that. And Mac Hughes, you're playing on my same concept. I was just about to say with Knapp, the concept of how he can just outscore his price tag so easily. And then I just thought about Mac Hughes at 8,600 just crushing his. Now he's down to 6,600.
So where's Knapp? Knapp scored. Knapp actually wasn't all that good. He got better as the week went. Because he scored 5.5 points in round 1. He was so bad at Bay Hill. But then he scored 21, 8.5, and 15.5. So he had 2 good rounds of the 2. But I would say that the difference is the reason that I like Knapp this week, and I'll have him written up in the newsletter. I bet on him, so you're going to read all about him. But it's the full send with the driver. You can do that here. We've seen those type of guys, shitty versions of this guy. Maybe he is shitty, but he has this one skill set that's really good, that it's proven itself to be good. Be it Luke List or Andrew Loop or Derek Ernst, all players who have just popped up at this course. And they have one thing that they do well. And Knapp actually has other things they do. Like, Knapp can kind of putt.
Yeah, he's shown up in other spots. That's what I mean. So I don't hate that.
He hasn't shown up in a big boy field yet, is the one thing.
What about Eckroat, though? Because even looking at him, like, you forget the team event and stuff, but 17, 33, 36, first, 38, he can outscore his price tag, and he's already been showing up in full field events.
Playing good golf.
It's tough to say, but again, just can put it out there. Maybe a thought.
I worry about him because he can't chip or putt.
Kitayama, you liked him?
I do like Kitayama. I like Kitayama more than Eckroat only because, and listen, if it translates back to a different style, that if missing the fairway is going to be super penal. So I think you want to include Eckroat into builds that, like, who are guys that I would put him with? Morikawa, Homa. Like, obviously, like, Morikawa can't scramble to save his life, but at his peak, he's going to hit all the fairways. He's going to hit his long irons really well. And that's what Eckroat does. Eckroat's sort of like the minor league version of Morikawa with the way that he plays. Like, with the way that he won at PGA National was people were putting themselves into bad spots or hitting the ball in the water or short-siding themselves. He just put the ball down the middle of the fairway and put it to the middle of the green and made some of the putts.
Yeah, so he can do that, and that's what it's going to come down to. I mean, these builds, though, make sense to me this week of guys that are just going to outscore their price tag. And then you're hoping one of them pops up and outscores their price tag and gets the win, but it's not like we're picking bad guys. We're just picking builds that are a little bit different. So there's guys that fit the mold down there, others too, but I think that low 6K range, or the upper 6K range is where people are going to, pick and choose, and it's just going to be whoever gets that right.
So of the guys at Bay Hill, Jake Knapp came 57th place on the leaderboard, and he finished in the same range as the guys that came T36. Mm-hmm. And he had like one disastrous round. So you have to hope that that's not in the cards where he shoots 80 or something.
Yeah, if they get just a couple normal rounds and then a couple spike rounds or whatever it might be, 3 really solid rounds and one like just par round, something like that, that's fine. But you have a lot of these guys that can really outscore their stuff over 4 days.
So the one thing that I've really taken away from this as we've gone through it and trying to build out lineups is that the lineups that you're not going to see a lot of are Cantlay-led lineups. Like if you want to,
I think is a great start.
If you want to be different this week, that's your start. $9,800 Patrick Cantlay. I don't like it because I don't like Patrick Cantlay, but like I don't like the way that he's playing. I think he's having a bad year, objectively bad. And just because he played well at Heritage, that's great. He's played well at 2 courses this year. Heritage and Riv, 2 places where he always plays well. I bet you he'll play well at Muirfield Village as well because he always plays well there. He's won there twice.
That's why I brought him up
everywhere else, he's been terrible.
Could be like a overrated sort of Finau style of just he plays well where he plays well, and that's why he shows up there, and that's what sort of makes his hay for him throughout the season.
But I mean,
you'd expect more, but I'm saying you just haven't seen it.
You expect more because you know what the upside can be for him when he starts rattling off wins, but he doesn't seem like he's that close to being that player right now. Like it's been a rough year for him. And like even at API and the players, like he lost almost 4 strokes tee to green at both those tournaments. He hadn't lost strokes tee to green. He's basically lost more strokes tee to green this year than he has already this year, than he has in any other year of his career as a full year. Mm-hmm. So there's something off about his game. And yes, he did play well at Heritage. Maybe that turns the season around. But him and Xander didn't even do all that fucking well at Zurich.
I was going to say, it was like bad showing for them considering what you've seen in the past. So I think that's another thing to look at. But
if you wanted to be different, I mean, those are the reasons why no one is starting their teams with Cantlay. That doesn't mean he's not going to play well. Or hell, take out Cantlay and say, hey, I'm going to start my lineups with Homa, Morikawa, Victor. Like a combination of 2 of those 3 guys leaves you very different. Even if you wanted to use the chalk guys and the 7s. I just don't like where that leaves me. But you could probably finagle it pretty easily if you use Nap, because that would probably get you back.
Well, I went Nap and Bhatia, and that lands you on 8,100 for your choice of Ben An or Finau, and you said your numbers like him quite a bit. So Ben
numbers
An.
love Ben An.
That's what I'm saying. So that's not bad. What's bad about that? Nothing.
Nothing. It's just people don't trust Hovland, Morikawa, or Homa right now.
Which they would fit that build too earlier, by the way. Like, obviously, I forgot about him. If you go Morikawa, Hovland, Decky, JT, and it might just fit Zalatoris. No, it drops to 62. So Nick Taylor, Seamus Power,
Kevin Tway.
For right now, what he's been doing.
So you said Homa, Morikawa, Hideki, who?
I went with Morikawa, Hovland to start. Then I went Decky, JT. So the underpriced guys in their range. Like, I don't know how you would argue this, but I would still argue that, like, Homa being more than Kawa and Hovland, it still does seem off for what I see. I love I love Homa, and I love what he's been doing and all that stuff. But the start of the year, Hovland was like Scotty Scheffler.
Yeah,
it was what we thought. Kawa, when he won the Open, was the next Tiger Woods. With the stats within the range of what they've done. Obviously, things tail off, and the golf world moves fast. And Homa's shown himself, and now had his best major finish and all of that. But those two seem underpriced. Matsuyama and JT definitely seem underpriced. You could argue in the sevens about a bunch of guys, but I think Zal seems underpriced. And then it's just your take on Kevin Tway. Probably, no disrespect to Seamus Power, but it's probably Nick Taylor. People, like, it was a couple of months ago now, when it was like Nick Taylor and, he's back at it again and another win. He's got as many wins as Fowler or more now. The President's Cup bid, all of these factors. Like, this is the dude.
Does he actually have as many wins as Fowler?
Does he have I think he has 5 wins?
Taylor has 3 wins.
What was this? What were they saying against him?
Taylor won Sanderson Farms, Pebble Beach.
Yeah, you remember the stuff better than I was trying to remember the stat they said against Ricky Fowler.
Phoenix. I think he has 3 wins in his career.
4 PGA Tour wins. Wikipedia has.
What's his 4? Did he win RSM or something?
Sanderson back in 2014.
Yeah, that was his first one.
And then Pebble Beach, RBC, and Waste Management.
RBC. Totally forgot about that last year. Yeah, so he has 4.
So we're talking, February. We're 2 months ago.
And Ricky has the Players, PGA National, Rocket Mortgage, and the Scottish Open doesn't count as a PGA win.
Maybe that's what it is.
Does he have another one? Does Ricky only have 3 wins?
No, we're doubling.
No, he won Quail Hollow. That was his first win.
So he has 6 PGA Tour wins.
What are the other 2?
So I don't know why they're always hating on Ricky. Wells Fargo.
That was his first win here.
Players. They're counting, I don't remember this, but it is true actually. The Deutsche Bank Championship.
Oh, the Deutsche Bank. That was a playoff.
That
was a playoff event at TPC Boston.
Stenson. The Honda.
Yeah.
Over Morgan Hoffman.
I remember.
Woodland. Waste Management.
Oh, yeah.
When he held on after all the stuff down the stretch. And then...
I'm usually better at remembering this stuff.
Still, I don't know why they were just hating on Ricky, but either way, the point was Nick Taylor's got 4 wins. I mean, that's something that's up there.
So this version of the lineup that you just mentioned, Hovland, Morikawa, Matsuyama, Thomas, with Tway and Zalatoris. I mean, that doesn't need to be Tway and Zalatoris. That could be Knapp and Bhatia. That could be Shank and Taylor Moore or something.
Actually, can it be Knapp and Bhatia?
I think so.
Oh, wow, it can. That's like the build right there. That's definitely the one. Think about it.
I mean, the play is to play them both, right?
Oh, well, it fits perfectly, but that would be, if we were saying Knapp was the guy in the 6s the whole way, then it just lands you on 7,600, and it has to be Bhatia in that range for the future.
But in terms of, like, the way that I'm thinking about the lineup, I agree with you. I like both those guys, so I'm not going to, like, really push back on this. But if you were telling me that Knapp and Bhatia, I think, has far less win equity. Although, I mean, Bhatia has 2 wins, Zalatoris only has 1. I'd rather have Zalatoris. Like, Zalatoris is a better player than all of those guys.
Yeah.
And the gap between our Knapp and Bhatia way better than Kevin Tway? Yeah, probably. But maybe not this week.
And Kevin Tway's hot right now.
Yeah, hot. So hot. He's the Hansel of the PGA Tour.
Yeah, you could go that route, but I just think, again, people will say, oh, like, you guys are just building this way. On a no-cut event like this, I actually love building this way. Because some weeks we're talking about wave advantages, things like that. There's different angles to approach it from, but points are king. And then you're hoping that one of these guys, obviously someone will say, oh, but if Rory wins, it just ends your whole life here. Probably. But then build some Rory, make some variations of this with Rory.
You know what also happens a lot? Guys win that I don't have, and I can't win that week. Happens all the time.
That's why we play 40 weeks out of the season. So there's lots that you can do. But I do think people overlook this aspect of it, especially when it comes to it. Like, for example, all these builds, Pat, had a 6K guy, at least one in them, for the most part. and still were pretty balanced. But most people, when they think no cut, automatically go to like ultra stars and scrubs. I'm not saying don't build that in your portfolio. If you got 20 plus lineups, let's get after it. Whatever you feel comfortable with, it's up to you. So it's about, taking some of the information, your own process, and applying it. But I will say, like, these lineups still look really good for finding the winner. It's just if Rory wins, then yeah, you're gonna have to have a different variation. Or if Xander wins, you were kind of off Clark. I mean, we had some with Cantlay here, but I think these builds will hold up quite nicely this week, and it's kind of what people wanted to do last week, and you can just take it into this week and do it instead.
So before we draft our head-to-head pivot plays, after talking through this all with you, I think Cantlay is the ultimate pivot play. Henley and Lowry, for me, would be the three. I don't know if I'm going to get to Cantlay. The other two I most definitely will be getting to. And if you don't want to use Cantlay, it's probably Morikawa or Hovland, one of those two.
Yeah, Cantlay was the one I would have up top with you. The other ones, I wasn't as high as you on them, but like for the other spots.
Well, I'm not high on Cantlay. It's just
no, I mean like as if I was picking my pivot plays, that probably wouldn't be the same. But I think Zal was a good one you brought up earlier. See where the Connors ownership gets to. If we think it's going to be Scott and other guys around him, maybe he can pick up some. But I like McCarthy down low. I like the Shank, Kirk, Hoagie range a little bit, where it doesn't seem like many people are going to that low 7K spot.
I would take Hoagie of those guys.
Yeah, I like that. And then Glover was the other one that you mentioned earlier that I kind of liked as well.
Okay. Head-to-head draft. Let's do it. I won last week.
You get first pick.
So I get first pick. Hideki.
Well, that screws things up. I'm going to try the high-low then, I guess. I'm going to go with... I'll go Rory.
You get 2 picks?
Yeah, I'm thinking if I want to go low or mid now and just save my lows for later, because I'm thinking who you're going to be taking. I'm going to go Justin Thomas.
All right, I'll take Jake Knapp and Sahith Theegala.
Don't think I can fit that, so let me go... Let me go Adam Scott, because everyone hates on him. And, man, do I want to do that? How much is that going to leave me? Let me go Finau.
Okay. I'll take Cam Young and Ben An.
And I'll take McCarthy and Glover.
And I'll finish with... I actually have a coin flip here. I could take Spieth if I wanted to. I could take Si Woo if I wanted to. But the coin flip, 3-way coin flip for me goes between Russell Henley, Alex Noren, and Will Zalatoris.
You got to take Henley.
I am taking Henley. That's
Okay.
what I have. That's what I have in.
So what is it in total here for you?
I have Theegala as my most expensive guy, with Hideki and Cam Young, Henley and Ben An, and Jake Knapp. It's very similar to that it might actually be the very first lineup that I drafted this week, too.
And $300 on the table?
Yep.
Congrats on another win. I've got you by about 18 points.
Hey, I projected better than you last week, and it only took a WD from one of your guys for me to
That's
win.
the thing. Yeah, that's brutal. Sungjae. So, yeah, that would have been the case. But, yeah, either way, good teams. I like your setup. And I think build-wise, pretty unique, right? You've got 4 8K guys with 1 9 and a 6, no 7s, no 10 pluses. I like that build. And then mine has... I had it just here 2 seconds ago. Rory is 11, but then it skips the 10s, 9s, and drops down and goes 8, 8, 7, 7, 6 with Glover. So, yeah, lots of things you can do with those builds.
All right, that will do it on the Pat Mayo Experience. Code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy to get you in the giveaway draw. So we're giving away 2 Fantasy National memberships. We're going to give a month away of ShipItNation.com and $500 cash. Sub to the Mayo Media Instagram. We're going to put all this in the description and in the newsletter as well. Sub to TikTok, Instagram, and the newsletter. Make it easy on yourself to get some ballots, but code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy will get you in. I'll get you to put that in the Discord for people, too. If they use code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy, they're in this big draw.
Yeah, man. Get her in there, shipitnation.com. You guys can check me out there, Toe Tag and Tambo. On X, the tidbits are up. You guys can check those. But big thing is, right now, we just got the Shiptimizer. It's our optimizer over at Ship It Nation. And then you can also use code MAYO to get 10% off. Right now, the month, even for PGA only, is basically like $1 a day. Get to check it out and see what's going on. And we've got a lot of big events this week, the major next week. Obviously, we'll have the U.S. Open next month. Just lots of stuff upcoming. Lots of good events, Pat, with RBC Canadian Open, Memorial. We're getting there, and then it's going to get better, and then we'll kind of have President's Cup in September that we're getting excited for too.
Yeah, I actually recorded with Kenny and Bronstetter last night for the preview of the Custy. So the Custy Awards is coming up probably within the next month or so. Waiting for a little downturn in the schedule where we can waste a day and go do that. I just booked 2 vacations, so.
Where are you going?
I'm going to jolly old London.
Okay.
Never been to London. I was like,
You like going over to Europe though. That's a good thing.
it's close. I mean,
closer to us, yeah.
I never really did until I moved here.
Yeah, makes sense.
Well, it's not close, but it's much closer than if I lived anywhere else in North America.
I would like it. It's on the bucket list for me for some of the other places over there. But like going out, to California, for example, not as easy or ideal when it comes to the travel situation we've got here.
Right. It takes me longer to get to Los Angeles than it does to London.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no direct flight to Los Angeles, and there is a direct flight to London. So I'm not going to be gone for long. I think I'm going for like 4 days.
Get cozy in your little pod on the way over.
Yeah.
Nice.
I know. I don't think they have the pod plane from here.
What's your other vacation?
I booked Toronto.
Nice.
I have a wedding in Toronto that I have to go to, so I'm only going to be on I'll be gone like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'll be back.
Yeah, I got one of those to Calgary right before we go to President's Cup. So it's like going there with my wife, and then when I get back, it's like sucks. I won't see the kids for a little while, but we'll go back and we'll be ready to go the next day. I'll see them that night, and then the next day we go to President's Cup.
I actually have that as well. I have a wedding in Toronto the week before we go to President's Cup.
Yeah, doing the same. It's a wedding.
I'm bringing the kids with us to Toronto, though.
Nice.
Yeah.
That'll be good.
It's going to be tough.
Keep you out of trouble a little bit. Just keep you fresh from Montreal.
Well, it's okay because I think my wife is flying up with the kids the day
Yeah.
before me because I have to be here to do content.
Of course.
Yeah, I got to come back early too.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough.
Yeah, you set it up right, my man.
But yeah, code Mayo, Underdog Fantasy, fantasynational.com/Mayo. Get the 3-for-1 as of Wednesday. Get Wednesday to Wednesday. Build all your lineups, use all the tools, and get access to that leaderboard app. And here's the thing. Once you have the leaderboard app, they're not going to kick you out if you cancel your membership either.
There you go.
Just putting that out there for people. At least I don't think that. Maybe they will. I don't know.
You keep saying that, and
I'm saying that. I don't think that they have the tech to do that, but maybe they do. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, fantasynational.com/Mayo. All right. I got Byron for the player by player. And that's coming out on Saturday. Course research. Maybe it comes out on Friday. Who knows? You let me know. You smash the like enough. You sub to the Instagram channel. Maybe I'll release it on Friday instead of Saturday because it'll be done. But I'm going to be sitting on it. I got football tomorrow with Jake, research show by myself on Saturday or Sunday, and then the regular slate of shows. And I think we're going to be live next Wednesday evening for the NFL schedule release show, too. Me, Custon, Jeff, Custon Studio. Maybe if we record that, maybe we won't do that one live. We'll release it the next morning, and maybe we'll do a live chat for the PGA Championship.
PGA Championship is going to be good next week, and Ship It Nation birthday. All on the same day of the schedule release, all these other things going on. It's a big day, Pat.
It's my wife's birthday, too. And it's Mother's Day this weekend.
That's right. Don't forget about your moms. That's one thing. I was going to talk about that in a later show, but 100%.
I got some catering coming over, having a tea party for my grandmothers.
Getting ready for your trip overseas.
Yes, but they all love tea. My mother-in-law loves tea. My mother loves tea. Both my grandmothers, fortunately, are both still alive, so they're going to come as well. So I got the 4 moms tea parties. I got like little... I'm not going to.
Please, this is good content. We talk about all the cuss content. You should be getting involved in this.
Well,
the tea party at Mayo's house.
Who do you think that I contacted to help me find out where to go for the tea party?
There you go. That solves that.
There's very few things that I would ask Cuss for scheduling wise for orders or anything. I was like, Cuss, where's the best place to order for a tea party? He's like, I have 8 places to go to.
Are you looking for this? Are you looking for that?
You tell me the best one, I will get it on that one. All right.
Perfect.
Thank you all for watching the Pat Mayo Experience. I appreciate you being here. Smash the like on the way out, and I will see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!